Hello, and welcome to today's LOL Esports Round Up, where we're going to cover the series that took place in the LCK this morning and preview what the schedule is tomorrow. I live view games, by the way, so if you'd like to stop by the stream, I have the timer up, watch the games together, BS about the games in the chat. More than welcome to do that. So, Kwangdong Freaks and HLE both come into this without any games on the 2023 slate. HLE fifth in my power rankings. They would win 2-0. I named Zeka MVP. He'd go 12-2-8. Viper dealt the most damage, dealing 1/3 of HLE's total damage in the game, going 4-5-12. Bulldog, the young rookie for the Freaks, went 4-7-8 in mid with a team leading 29% of damage. HLE did not look clean at all. I believe that people and myself and other people, you're hungry for storylines, narratives, and things like that. This is the beginning of the split. The last couple months, we haven't had anything really to discuss. So reading into this is hard to avoid because Clid played absolutely awful. And going into the year, that was the expectation, was that Clid was going to play awful, and that would be what hurt HLE. In the grand scheme of things. But I will also keep in mind, Kingen did not do much better. Dudu did, I feel like, got the better of Kingen in game one. Kingen showed relevance in game two with some key Nara ultimates, but in lane, he definitely left a little bit on the table. Now, when it comes to Clid specifically, I thought I got most of this cough out of my system. So Clid, at 3 minutes in, on Maokai, dove bot lane by himself without Viper or Life to follow up, and just died. And literally, on stream, I was like, oh my god. It took 3 minutes and Clid is already ruining HLE's season. He looked awful. Young Jay really got the better of him. Honestly, I thought Young Jay on the Sejuani was the best player for Kwangdong Freaks in this series. The Freaks actually played much better than anticipated, and HLE played worse than anticipated. Taeyun got a 2v2 kill, flashed in on Viper and killed him, which was impressive. We saw our first Heimer Jin support matchup in game one. Like I said, in top lane, game one, Dudu definitely got the better of Kingen. And then in game two, Kingen was relevant with some key Nara ultimates in team fights around the Drake, and then while they were trying to end the game, he had a triple that really stuck out, and Zeka would clean up. Now, we're going to talk about Zeka because I haven't talked about him yet. Why is he MVP? Game one, Clid ended up in such a hole that Young Jay opened up a lead for Kwangdong Freaks. They had like 3-4K gold lead for a long time, but the problem was it stagnated, and that had a lot to do with Zeka on Silas. He was making things happen. He was impactful, keeping the team in it. There was a couple moments where he was dealing definitely the most damage on the team, and very effective. And with that, kept them in the game long enough to be able to win it. Game two, his Akali, he had some great plays. He had a triple kill at the end of the game, a lot to do with Kingen. I mean, I give Kingen a lot of that credit, but nevertheless, Zeka had some impact in both games, so he ends up being MVP because Kingen really struggled in game one, so to give him it for game two didn't make sense. Clid certainly didn't deserve it, and I didn't think Viper and Life did either. So, HLE win a 2-0 that, frankly, should have been an easy 2-0, but we can't read too much into it. I think reading too much into it is just being a drama, just a dramatic person. You can't handle just like letting it flow. That it's the first series of the year for these teams. HLE is going to take some time to get used to each other. Obviously, Zeka and Kingen have been teammates, but we're mixing in Viper, who has not played with Life, and then we got Clid, who is frankly not very good, and it's going to be a situation. And then the Freaks, a bunch of young players. People think they choked or this or that. It's like it's a bunch of young players that had not a lot of stage time last year. Taeyun, Young Jay, those two had like nothing last year. Bulldog coming out of Challenger, he's 17 years old. He's going to have mistakes. It's going to happen. I wish he didn't end up on Talia game one. Talia stinks. I think it's a bait pick in mid. And then June's coming up from Challenger as well. So the Freaks are going to have issues, and people need to understand that. Series 2, Nongshim and Fred at Brion. Both not in my top 25. Neither had played a game. Fred at Brion win 2-0. Karas ends up being MVP. Henna went 8-5-4, 26% of damage. Karas 9-4-8. 4 of those 9 kills coming on the final fight for, I believe, Elder at the time to win game 2. DN ends up being the best player for Nongshim, going 6-4-7, 32% of damage, including 2 solo kills on Morgan in game 2. One of them was Morgan just fell on the sword. But the second one, DN earned on Gragas against Renekton, which I thought was definitely odd. Game 1, Fred at Brion opened a big lead in the jungle. They had a really interesting level 1 play that put Morgan in the enemy jungle. It backed Sylvie up to the point where Umpty actually invaded Sylvie when Sylvie was trying to do blue, and he flashed over the wall blind and took it, like timing perfectly, smited it, which completely screwed Sylvie, and he had 2 times as much farm as Sylvie, like 8 minutes in. I mean, not even 8 minutes in, probably 6 minutes in. It's like 30, probably roughly 20 to 40. Like, Umpty was really gapping him. And it was Maokai versus Vi. Now, in the Fred at Brion way, they really didn't extend that lead that much. Because early game they don't do a lot. There were a couple plays, but I think really it allowed Nongshim back in this game. And in the end result, it ended up turning into a situation where Nongshim actually had the advantage. They had the killed lead and the advantage. And there was a fight around Elder Drake, and Morgan had to go like on a mission in bot lane and back door, like, and take out, the outer turret, let alone inhib, and then the Nexus turrets. Like he had to go on a mission, and it was a messy game. I remember afterwards saying on stream, I'm like, man, both these teams suck, because frankly they looked awful. Nongshim, like I said, DN looked good in top lane in game 2, but game 1, Nongshim were in trouble. They were able to dig out of that hole, but then unable to do much with it. Game 2, also slow, Fred at Brion way. Like I said, DN with two solo kills, but really the early game was quite slow. Fiesta looked good at times. Henna looked good at times on Lucian. I thought he played very aggressive after Umpty pulled off a hero play, smiting. It was almost like he never even touched the ground in the Drake pit. Like he stole a Drake from Sylvie blind. Nongshim placed a control ward, and Umpty either, I don't remember if he flashed or if he bounced over the wall to get into the Drake pit, but he smited and he was out. It's like he never even touched the ground. Like he was out of the pit, and that play created enough of a spike that made Henna feel aggressive, and Henna went after it in mid lane. Either, I don't forget if he got a kill exactly, or he pushed someone out, forced a recall to be able to take mid turret. And after that, Fred at Brion were able to open up, and as far as Fred at Brion, I keep saying Fred at Brion, but Brion can open up, and they end up winning game 2. Obviously, like I said, it did come down to a final fight, though. It was not like I said, Brion's not opening up a super big lead. It takes 40 minutes for them to win games. So Karas ends up getting a quadra pretty much on Rise to end it, and he ends up being MVP, I guess, because, like I said, Morgan, getting solo killed twice in game 2, you're not MVP for what you did in game 1. One could argue Umpty could be MVP, but at the same time, Umpty did give back the lead he earned in game 1. And then the bot lane was pretty non-existent, and, Karas hit a quadra, I guess, so he ends up being MVP. So I'm 11-5 now. I got both of these right. I had Brion 2-1. That's the only thing that I got slightly wrong. So we're 11-5. I'm picking winners. Tomorrow, 3 of the 4 teams playing in the LCK are in my top 8 of my power rankings. These are 3 of the top 4 teams. I have T1 number 1 coming in 1-0 off of a win against Gen G 2-0 that was very decisive. KT are 8th, 0-0, have not played yet, but there are rumors that in scrims they are one of the better teams. I don't really do much with rumors. I kind of wipe with them, if you catch my drift. So, it is what it is. Week 7, day 1 in summer, T1 would win 2-1 in this matchup. 7 of the 10 players from that series are in this one, starting for their respective team. All 5 for T1, and then Cuz and Aiming for KT. Guma went 13-2-13 in that trio of games. Aiming went 10-4-8. That's the matchup I'm highlighting, and that's the matchup. No, actually, that's not the matchup Discord likes, but that's the matchup I like. Bot lane Guma Carria against Aiming and Lahens. I think Guma and Aiming are, well, now that Viper's back, Prince is gone, so I guess depending on how you want to order it, second and third in the LCK, and then the supports are first and second. So this is some of the best bot lane play we're going to see all year. It's going to be very, very interesting. I want to see how it goes. We'll get a good idea of how the meta is looking in bot lane from this matchup, because it's pretty close. It's definitely exciting to watch. Now, Discord, 8 out of 12 people like Zeus and Keen. Those scrim rumors have that Keen is really, 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 really good right now. Looking like Keen of old, like he's revitalized after his suffering with the Freaka for so long. And obviously Zeus is a very good player. So we've got two of arguably, I would say, the top 6 to 8 top laners in the world duking it out. So we'll see what happens in that one. And then we have Sandbox against Damwon Kia. Sandbox haven't played yet this year. Damwon Kia, 4th place in my power rankings. They have played. They're 1-0. They beat DRX soundly 2-0. The last time these two teams played was the regional finals, where Damwon Kia would win to go to Worlds 3-1. In that series, half of the players are still on their respective team. 3 for Damwon Kia, Canyon, Showmaker, Kellen, and then Closer and Cal for Sandbox. Now, the matchup that I cited here was Kellen versus Cal, because I was like, Kellen actually had a very good 4 games. His KDA, he had a 3 kill, 3 death, 42 assist series, which is pretty damn good, because, you think of Kellen, and even I say it, I'm not a big Kellen fan, but he did very well in that one alongside Duck Dom in a series where Prince needed to show up, and he really did not. Speaking of that bot lane, Cal went 0-9-19, and I'm sure he takes some of that responsibility for sure for that struggle they had. And now now they have different AD carries, so we'll see how that goes. Closer and Showmaker is the matchup that I picked to watch, because really Sandbox, I'm not too interested in Birdall versus Kana. Willer versus Canyon, I don't know how Willer's going to get through this. And then Envy and Cal against Deft and Kellen. Deft and Kellen, I don't think some people believe Deft is still really correct. I think Deft is a very good utility bot laner. Like, you have weak side top laners that fill out comps and win worlds and do very well. Deft is at that point in his career. He won worlds last year as what I would consider a utility AD carry, and that's kind of what he's resigned to now. But Closer versus Showmaker, Closer is a good mid laner. He's definitely up and coming for sure. He's here. Let's put it that way. He's no longer 18 anymore. I think he's, probably 20 years old now. So he's got a little bit of development to do, but he's pretty much here. And Showmaker obviously is elite in this meta. He loves this meta. So the Discord agrees. 7 out of 11 people highlight that matchup. So if you would like to vote on future matchups, what matchups we should highlight in the previews, go to the Discord. I post all the games, so all Saturday's games are there. You want to pick MVPs, I keep track of those. So if there's MVPs on each thread, so the thread is created with the preview, and then after the games are done, I make a second poll in that thread with the MVP list, and you can choose what MVP, which player got MVP. Next morning, I mark down who had the most, and at the end of the year, we'll be able to decide an MVP that way. I have predictions if you'd like to predict who wins. Like I said, I'm 11-5. If you want my predictions, it's members only, $10 a month. Otherwise, you wait until when the games start and you watch live view, and I put on the screen what my prediction is as after the game starts, so people can't use my predictions for their gambling endeavors. So membership's $10 a month for that. $3 a month, you get just a badge in the comment section, and you support me so I can keep doing this. Or you just subscribe, like the video, follow me on Twitter, join the Discord so you can participate in the things we do, and thank you for watching.